if Yom Kippur leads to forgiveness, or it enables you to finally let go of something that you should have let go of a long time ago, then Yom Kippur can be the happiest day of the entire year. So hopefully this is a day filled with a sense of joy because we've done the hard work at hand. So good Yontif, everyone. We're using the Yom Kippur prayer books. You should have a silver prayer book in front of you in the sanctuary. If it's your custom, or if you want to introduce an ancient custom as a new practice, we invite you to go outside and take hold of a talit. This is the only evening all year that the talit is worn. And so if you'd like, take one while we sing, and then we'll say the blessing together. The custom is to stand if you're able while we place the talit on our shoulders. If you're wearing it, if you'd like to do it again communally, we're going to rise. Our Zoom congregation is with us right now. So if you're at home with a talit and you'd like to join us as well, we are on page 2. Let us read the first paragraph. My soul, bless Adonai. Adonai, my God, you are very great. You are clothed in beauty and splendor, wrapped in a robe of light. You unfurl the heavens like the curtains of a tent. And so together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. Amen.
Oh, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, return to where you are, over and over. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
So a friend of mine recently wrote, I will be in the synagogue this High Holy Days because, one, the experience brings me closer to that which is greater than myself, which Jewish tradition calls God. 2, I'm able to see myself more clearly, warts and all, and in the presence of the divine. 3, services provide me with the opportunity to be in solidarity with the Jewish people through time and space. 4, the lessons of the holidays force me to face my own mortality. They guide me on a path that will help me to make my life count. 5, I will be there because I am uplifted by the music and the sermon. 6, because the synagogue provides me with a sacred space for prayer and offers me words of prayer when I'm unable to shape them on my own. 7, I'll be there because the holidays provide me with guidance to set my life back on course where I may have strayed, and they provide me with strategies for living a more sacred life. 8, in the context of community, I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, and I'm buoyed in my efforts to become a better person. 9, I'm able to reaffirm my faith in God and the goodness of humankind. 10, with all that I receive, I'm able to leave the synagogue and face the year ahead optimistically, joyfully, and humbly. And then he wrote to me, can you make sure that I or any individual walk away feeling that my motivations have been met. So this is my hope for us this High Holy Days, whether we're here or on Zoom, that we grow together, we grow as individuals in the presence of community. We open ourselves up, leave ourselves vulnerable but protected by the words of our tradition and the knowledge that thousands and thousands and thousands of people have uttered these words and grown through them and by them. And so let's join together. We light our candles, and because we're all new at this, returning to the synagogue, we don't have a candle that lights the candles, which means someone's put on the spot to light matches. So I'm going to light the candles.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Together, words of Shehachianu, page 9.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu l'zman hazeh. Let's try the blessing one more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Section called Kol Nidre on page 16. As you know, Kol Nidre became such a well-known prayer that the whole evening started to be called Kol Nidre. It's interesting that this prayer took hold in the life of the Jewish people to such a degree because the words are challenging. They read, "All our vows are annulled." And for many, including the rabbis, they were challenged by this. Why would this prayer annul our vows? Would anyone make a vow again, a promise? And many rabbis wanted to remove the prayer. But the melody was so stirring that the people were unwilling to give up on the words, because they said the melody moves us to a place where we know it's Yom Kippur, as it's early in the service. So along with this stirring melody, I want to provide you with another way to interpret this passage of our vows being annulled on this evening and throughout the day. And let me suggest that the vow that we make is actually a pattern of habit that has been wired within us. And the annulment is the rewiring that comes with a sense of awareness and intention. And so the cantor sings Kol Nidre 3 times. We'll hear the melody and words 3 times. 3 times to rewire our brains to annul the vow the way we've always done it before, And we annul our vows through thought, word, and deed. So 3 times thought, word, and deed. Let's begin page 16, where Zeruah Latzadik, this section called Kol Nidre.
It's with great joy that I call Sheila Fikowski up to the bima to offer us the first of 3 rounds of Kol Nidre.
page 16. And I'd like to call upon any past presidents who are with us in the sanctuary this evening to come to the bima. Let's read together. With one voice, assembled sages, past and present, declare, all may pray as one on this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and the congregation proclaim, all may pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly. Page 18, if you're able, please rise for Kol Nidre.
Vidina
top of page 20. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel, and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love.
And God responded,
I forgive as you have asked. Page 22, we continue with the call to worship.
Ya la la la, 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 ya la la
We pause in reverence before the gift of self. The vessel shatters, the divine spark shines through, and our solitary self becomes a link in Israel's golden chain. For what we are by sharing, and as we share, we move toward the light.
Page 27.
We pause in reverence before the mystery of a presence, the near and far reality of God. Not union, but communion is our aim. As we approach the mystery with deeds, words lead us to the edge of action, but it is deeds that bring us closer to the God of light.
Together, we pause in terror before the human deed,
the cloud of annihilation, the concentrations for death, the cruelly casual way of each to each. But
in the stillness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light. May we find our life so precious that we cannot but share it with the other. That light may shine brighter than 1,000 suns,
with the presence among us of the God of light. We turn to page 28 and join in these words together. We join together on page 30. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha
ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
And I ask you to listen carefully to the sounds of this Mi Chamocha. It will evoke sounds of the Kol Nidre melody and of themes that you will hear throughout the Yom Kippur holiday.
We turn to page 40.
Cantor Suffering, will you come join us on the beat? Pretty please.
We turn to page 46, and we rise as we are able as we turn to the Amidah.
Yanai, nai, nai, 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 yanai, nai, nai. Adonai, sefatai tita, Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. כותבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים.
מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור
לעולם אדוני, לחיים הכל אתה, רב והושיע, מוריד אתה. מחכה חיים וחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סובב נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר. מלחמוך בעל גבורות ומידום אליו, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מחמוך אל הרחמים זוכה צוריו, לחיים ורחמים ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
We continue independently with the meditations of the heart, where the words found in the prayer book. When you've completed your prayer, we'll be seated. Those continuing the Amidah can remain standing through the prayer book as we listen to the words Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום עלינו, עושה שלום במרומיו.
שלום עלינו, יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל.
turn to words for those in need of healing of mind, body, or spirit. And those words can be found on page 270 to 272. At this time, we ask anyone who is thinking of someone in need of healing to please rise. And we'll ask for you on Zoom as well to please enter a name in the chat room. And if you're here in the sanctuary, we're going to say the names together at this time.
Ruth Yar. God of our forefathers and mothers,
Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech,
bless our loved ones. Bless them with health. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, grant them strength. May they be uplifted by our prayers. And so on this Yom Kippur evening, let us now turn to page 82 for the Vidui, the public confession. And if you're able, please rise once again, another important section in our liturgy, as we read in English together. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done
wrong.
And together, beating our chests, which each confession, an alphabet of sins beginning with Aleph, then Bet, then Gimel, then Dalet. And we say these communally. Ashanu, Baganu, Gazanu, Dibarnu Dofi, ay, 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 Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Shaker. Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maranu, Niatsnu. Saranu,
Saranu Kishidu Ore. Rashanu Shichadnu Tayavnu Tainu Tietanu.
We continue on page 86.
Ve'al kulam Eloah slichu. Slach lanu v'chalanu.
And let's read in English together. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to eternity. Page 90. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to eternity. Page 98, we listen to the word Shema Kolenu. Hear our call, Adonai, our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Take us back, Adonai. Let us come back to you. Renew our days as in the past.
Shema Koleinu Adonai Eloheinu Chus v'rachem Aleinu Aleinu V'kaber v'rachamim v'rachamim uv'ratzon Hashivenu Adonai Elecha, Hashivenu Elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu, Yameinu, Kekedem. Al tashlichenu al tashlichenu Shema Koleinu Adonai Eloheinu Sverachem Aleinu Aleinu Vekabel berachamim, berachamim, uveratzon. Et
I just want to acknowledge Josh for a beautiful interpretation of Shema Kolenu. He, if you don't know, is an extraordinary music educator and leads our families with young children programming at the temple. And then it just so happens he's also certified as a cantor by the Jewish Theological Seminary, which happened, was it in this past Jewish year? Exactly. So, Mazal Tov in front of our community. So he was just certified recently and has been helping the many needs of our congregation. But we are blessed with an extraordinary musical tradition here and just an embarrassment of riches. Let us turn back to page 100.
God of forgiveness. God of forgiveness, we come before you.
Here we go.
God of forgiveness, we come before you in need of compassion. At Sinai, you spoke words that guide our lives to this day, but our ancestors lost faith in you, lost hope in their Redeemer. With one voice, they had promised, "We will do and obey," and yet stiff-necked, they broke their word, adoring an idol of gold. How wondrous your compassion in the face of their rebellion. your forgiveness in that moment of human weakness and doubt. We too have broken promises to you. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make of gold a god, and we too forsake your word. At Sinai, you revealed 13 attributes of mercy, these aspects of your nature, your very essence, we now recall.
Adonai, Adonai,
A plea of forgiveness we make 3 times.
Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh.
A second time.
Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh.
Page 114, let's read together Avinu Malkeinu. Before listening to these words in Hebrew, we read,
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew us. Renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu. Ve'ol aleinu, v'tapeinu.
Long ago, in a small shtetl where the famous rabbi, the Baal Shem Tov, lived, there also lived a family of Torah scholars. The parents expected that each of their children would continue the same family tradition of studying Torah. While the first and second children followed right along in their parents' footsteps, the third child, Shmuel, had a hard time. It was hard for him to sit and focus for long periods of time. It was difficult to learn his letters, and he didn't seem to engage with the lessons. Shmuel's parents and his teacher realized that this school setting was not the ideal place for him to learn and to grow. So instead, Shmuel's parents asked the town shepherd if their son could be his new apprentice. And so, unlike his siblings and everyone else in their family, Shmuel did not go to school. Instead, he spent every day in the fields and in the meadows learning how to be a shepherd. Shmuel thrived. He loved the animals. He loved being outdoors. He loved connecting to the sheep when they were together and how connected he felt to them. And he loved learning how to play the flute, which the shepherd taught him. For when he played his flute among the flock, the sheep listened and they came near, and everyone felt part of a whole. Shmuel felt connected and important, except there were a few days each year when he would feel out of place. You see, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur were the days when Shmuel was expected to join his entire family in the synagogue. Shmuel would sit quietly, unable to speak the words of the prayers, unable to read because he didn't learn in school. And it's not that he didn't want to be there. Rather, he yearned to join in, but he didn't know how. One year on Yom Kippur, Shmuel sat with his family as usual, longing to participate, when he happened to look up at the Baal Shem Tov. And Shmuel noticed that the Baal Shem Tov kept his gaze on him. as if to encourage him. Shmuel sat and wondered what he could do to add his voice to the prayers of the community that felt so foreign. And his hand went to his flute in his pocket, and he was reminded of how connected he felt to his herd when he would play. And so he pulled out his flute and began to play the same beautiful melody that wove harmoniously with the prayers of the congregation. He played with all his heart and all his soul, so happy to have finally found a way to participate. But the community stopped their praying, and a sound of shock and horror went through the room. Suddenly, people were shouting at Shmuel to stop, shouting at the Baal Shem Tov to make him stop. But instead, the Baal Shem Tov spoke gently. Finally, our prayers will reach heaven as a full community, he said, for all of us are now included. Shmuel has joined us with his pure love, his joy, and devotion. We need his voice in order for God to hear all of us. We pray in the Unatana Tokef prayer on these holy days as a shepherd herds the flock, causing the sheep to pass beneath the staff. So does God count and record the souls of all human beings. Each of us is part of a flock, and in that sense, we are as indistinguishable as one sheep to another. But the truth is that we are not identical. God considers us not as a flock, but one by one. God has given each of us our individuality and recognizes each of us as unique, valuable, and essential. As we heard from Dr. Kleeman, who preached on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, each one of us is created B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image. Each one of us is holy and has a purpose on this earth. We are each a face of God, regarded in God's eyes. But sadly, we are not always held in that same regard by others or even ourselves. We can all remember a time when we felt excluded, unappreciated, or not valued. It hurt deeply. And I'm sure we can also think of a time when we witnessed someone else feeling this way and wish that we had done something to make them feel more included. In fact, it was a feeling just like this, expressed by a congregant, that inspired me to write this sermon. Before I tell you the story, I want to ask you a question. How many steps do you usually need to take inside of this building until you see something or someone who makes you feel welcome? How long does it take for you to feel welcome? This was the question that I was asked. If you're asking me, I've never actually felt the need to ask the question. Whether or not I am welcome here in this holy place, I've always felt that way. Yet, there was a part of me that wanted to ask them, how many? How many steps for you? But then I realized that the number wasn't actually important. It was the fact that they felt like they had to count or ask the question at all. Can you imagine feeling so out of place or worrying about feeling so out of place that you come up with a test to see how long it takes for something, or better yet, someone, to include you and help you feel known and valued? For the record, the answer was hundreds of steps. Over 300 steps to the back corner of our building for this individual to find an LGBTQ plus flag, an outright sign that they would be welcome and accepted here. We are just like those sheep who need to be regularly drawn underneath the shepherd's staff and counted. We all need and want to feel this way. We must not forget that all human beings have a range of needs in order to survive. According to psychologist Abraham Maslow, there are different levels of human needs. At the first level, the most basic human needs are food, water, clothing, and shelter. But all of the other levels have to do with areas of the psyche and the spirit: safety, security, love, belonging, and esteem. Our soul and our well-being are in danger if we do not feel loved, included, regarded. Yom Kippur is a time for reflection, for internal housekeeping, and a time for us to consider how we have treated others during this past year. It is a time for us to realize that our actions matter, and so do the ways we consciously and unconsciously treat others. It is also the time for us to take responsibility and to vow to do better in the coming year. Even though we as a Reformed Jewish community have values that have become more and more welcoming over time, we still have work to do, not just within these walls, but also out in the world. Here's the thing, though, about learning to be inclusive. It isn't always easy. We have to be able to step outside of ourselves or outside of what we conceive or what we experience as the so-called norm. We have new words to learn, new things to think about. Embracing and accepting someone who is different from ourselves takes a great deal of empathy. This year, we've tried some new things with our High Holy Day name tags, providing an option for people to express their gender pronouns: she, her, he, him, they, them. And I often hear, and many of you have genuinely asked the question, why do we have to use these pronouns? Isn't it obvious what pronoun I use? Or people have remarked that the use of pronouns must be a generational thing. Different types of gender identities and expressions have been discussed in our Jewish tradition for thousands of years. Magnificent Jewish texts such as the Mishnah, the Talmud, and Jewish law codes from the 1st through the 8th centuries record and affirm 6 different types of gender identities: male, female, gender fluidity, or a change over time. We can count over 1,600 citations of gender differences in our ancient texts. Even in the very first chapter of the Torah, when God creates human beings, B'Tselem Elohim, just in one verse alone, God creates a spectrum of gender identity. Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam b'tzalmo, B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. And God created humankind in God's image. God created it. Creating male and female, God created them. Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Lazar, a Talmudic sage of the 5th century, comments, at the time that God created the first human, Adam, God created androgynous. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachum clarifies, God created human beings with 2 sides. And the rabbis further expound, God took a side from one human to create another. One who is androgynous, as the text says, based on this ancient teaching, is a person who has both male and female physical sex characteristics. The current English term is intersex. You see, to our ancient texts and rabbis, we in our many different forms are all B'Tselem Elohim. And just like Shmuel's parents in the story, inclusion begins with stepping outside of ourselves to consider another person's perspective and needs, even if it doesn't accord with our own experience. What if the binary gender construct of she, her, or he, him does not fit someone's understanding of self? What if one feels neither, or their sense of gender changes, assuming that there are only two options or that our choices fit everyone, excludes so many people in our community? Still, we can take it a step further by not only being understanding, but also welcoming. If we introduce ourselves by sharing the pronouns that work for us, I'm Rabbi Sapphire, and I use she, her pronouns, then we invite others to introduce themselves authentically too. And if someone isn't ready to share their pronouns, then we can at least acknowledge them. And therefore, we make it known that in this space, we have an intention and a practice of inclusion. If you've never had to worry about people using the wrong pronouns when referring to you, it may not seem important, but a small added effort can make a world of a difference. We each have work to do when it comes to embracing any and all humans as B'Tselem Elohim. There are so many people in our lives who we can do a better job of welcoming and including. Is it our child who does not go to college or who chooses a gap year or a trade program? Is it a family member who is neurodiverse or differently abled? Is it the grandchild who expresses an identity fluid on the gender or sexuality spectrum? Is it the neighbor who has migrated from another country? A community member who expresses a political opinion different from our own? A colleague who is a single parent? Or is it simply the person at the grocery store or at the gym or in the neighborhood that we always notice is alone? We can all learn to be better shepherds like Shmuel, whose flute calls out his truth in his authentic voice. When I think of the flute as the instrument of inclusion, I cannot help but think of a talented, Grammy Award-winning musician and pop star who I admire. Yes, Lizzo. In addition to her voice, her dance moves, and her stage presence, Lizzo, a large black woman who is not afraid to express herself in a leotard, is known for breaking barriers, advocating for and elevating the value of artists and people of all body types, sizes, and races. And Lizzo does it with a flute. For the sound and the message of a flute transcends the boundaries that we humans tend to set. Just a few days ago, Lizzo was invited by the Library of Congress to play a very special flute at a concert in DC, a flute that was made for James Madison in 1813. Here she was in 2022, freely expressing herself on stage, playing a flute that was made for a white slave owner. Even for most of us who are not famous or classically trained flutists like Lizzo, the sound of the flute is beautiful. It is accessible, small, and portable, and it can be taken anywhere. In fact, it fits inside the shepherd's pocket. While not everyone can play an actual flute, we can think of our own voices as our metaphorical flutes. Think of the sweet melodic sound of our voice when we sincerely ask someone, "What is your name?" Truly, how are you? Or we invite them to tell us a bit about their story. This is as sweet as the music of a flute. Especially within our TBE community, we have the sacred mission to exercise these muscles of welcome and inclusion. In this new year, the Temple Board of Trustees has set a priority to welcome each congregant anew. We realize whether you are a new member or a long-term member that the pandemic has created distance for all of us. To many of us, this community feels like a warm home, but we have work to do to open the door and reach others who do not yet feel this way. And so, we must shepherd. We look to the ultimate shepherd, God, for inspiration. When we are feeling lonely or disconnected, we turn to Psalm 23. May these words not only comfort us, but may we embody and enact them. Adonai ro'i lo echsar. God is my shepherd. I am not lacking. God brings me to greener pastures, to waters that are still and replenishing. Even though I walk and count my steps in a valley of darkness, I will not fear, because you are with me. Your rod and your staff bring me comfort. Your melody and song draw me near. Because of you, my shepherd, only goodness and love will I know for the rest of my life, and I will dwell in this sacred, welcoming house forever.
When I'm lost deeper than I've known, when the world is out of my control, breathe, close my eyes again, and I will wait for you. Everywhere I go, you'll be the one I call home. I know that everywhere I go, you'll be there for me when I need you most. You'll be there for me when I need you Everywhere I go, you'll be the one I call home. I know that everywhere I go, you'll be there for me when I need you most. You'll be there for me everywhere I go. Gam ki elech begeit salmaven lo hirara ki ata imadi. Everywhere I go, you'll be the one I call home. I know that everywhere I go, you'll be there for me when I need you most. You'll be there for me and you'll pull me close. You'll be there for me and you'll see me grow. You'll be there for me everywhere I go. Thank you, Lena.
If you're able, please rise for the words of Aleinu on page 116.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כרעי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוי עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו פונים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. The Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 122. It's our custom here to invite those who are within the period of mourning or observing yard site to please rise at this time so that we can identify you as a mourner in our midst. If you've lost an immediate family member during the past 30 days, a parent during the past 11 months, or are observing a yard site, I include myself among you as a mourner. And I invite those on Zoom to use the chat room to record the names of those you're thinking of. And since we're a fairly small gathering this year in the room, let's go around as clergy and take one section. So Rabbinic intern Lesner, if you can take this section, and Rabbi Harper, the middle section. Have we reached everyone in the room? I mentioned my sister Jill Sissenwine. Let's all rise then, if you're able, in support of the mourners in our midst, as together on Zoom and in our sanctuary we recite these words. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon u'b'chayed chol Beit Yisrael. V'agalav izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam U'Lamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei T'Kudusha B'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yama v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Before we conclude and end together, a few important announcements. One is our High Holy Day Hunger Drive is on, and many local organizations depend on our congregation for a large part of their budget that we collect at this time each year. So don't forget to support by making a donation on the website or dropping a check in the tzedakah box as you enter our building. It also supports our TB Table initiative right here at the temple. Tomorrow morning, we start at 8 a.m. with our early service, or you can come to the late service, which is at 10:45. Our families with young children will be in person in the tent, rain or shine. We have a high school experience and a full day, so if you do want to stay through the whole day, there will be programming throughout, and we will be ending at 6:30. So if you're bringing children back for Havdalah, make sure they're here at about 6:20. Then we have Sukkot coming up this weekend, and then the weekend after Simchat Torah, and we have a big celebration,
Sunday,
a concert.
October 16th, from 2 to 6 p.m., beginning with our first ever TBE Farmers Market, and concluding with a very celebratory Simchat Torah festival with Nefesh Mountain, a Jewish bluegrass band. So please come.
And finally, you'll see our adult learning guide. We have a lot of new programming this year. We hope you'll engage with us in the building or on Zoom. So let us now conclude with the words Adon Olam on page 126. But let me conclude with a reading which is, people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. And then in the final analysis, it's between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. And so we'll continue growing tomorrow, looking inside, being the people that God intended us to be. Let's conclude with the words Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yesir Nivra, Le'ed Nasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Le'ed Nasa, Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yesir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoved B'tifara V'hu Haya V'hu Hoved B'tifara.
If you're going to leave the books on the chairs, good Yontif. We'll see you tomorrow morning,
Good
everyone.
Yontif. Thank you to the choir and to our musicians and to Victor on piano. And thank you to Noah.